Hey everyone, I'm Matt Cremona.
And I'm Matthew Morris.
And once again, Matthew is on location. He is not in his own shop. He is in sunny Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Matthew, who you got there with you?
Well, I'm not going to say who's here. I'm going to let them say who's here. So you guys introduce yourselves.
All right, I'm Tom Fidgen here at the Unplugged Woodshop. And this is?
Justin Starr, also at the Unplugged Woodshop.
So you guys are business partners, you're co-teachers, right?
Sure, you can say
All of the above, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, it's your space, right? Together, yeah.
Yeah.
Tom's idea.
Yeah.
Your craziness.
It's my,
Yes.
yeah. This is something I started, and Justin came on board.
Okay.
I was looking for someone to work here with me. Justin wanted to get some woodworking experience, so we came to an agreement that he could come here and work with me, and I all of a sudden now have someone that can help me and eventually hopefully take over some teaching jobs around the place as well.
Mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know who Tom is out there, Tom, why don't you give us a quick little 30-second rundown?
30-second rundown. Okay, in 2006, I was building wooden boats in Cape Breton. Started blogging. In 2006, people still said, "What's a blog?" 2007, Popular Woodworking magazine called me and said, "Hey, you want to write a book for us?" In 2008, that book came out, Made by Hand. 2009, that was their best-selling woodworking book. 2011, I signed a publishing deal with the Totten Press, wrote a second book called The Unplugged Woodshop, started teaching internationally. Everywhere I go, people say, "You got a school in Toronto?" I say, "No, I teach in my basement." So then this year we decided to change that, and now we're here and we have a school in Toronto.
Awesome. Justin?
I'm fairly new to the woodworking world. I have no real social media presence at the moment. That's kind of what this is all started. I was in a different career before all of this. Gave it all up, gave up the desk work to come and do this.
So then, like, this is kind of perfect for you because you're starting your woodworking experience and you're jumping right into hand tools.
Absolutely.
Right. And so where did you learn from, Justin? There's a lot of inspiration from Tom or other people?
Absolutely, yeah. I found woodworking through YouTube. That's what kind of first started me on the whole track. Finding a few people doing power tool work, quickly realized I did not want to use power tools, started the hand tool route, and quickly found Tom on his channel. And being just 30 minutes outside of Toronto, I took a class in the basement.
Yeah, I was in the basement, yeah.
It was just a 2-hour class. We just talked and learned a bunch, and that's when I really fell in love with it.
Cool. So I've been here for most of the day today, and a class just finished up, actually 2 classes today. Yeah. And it was a great class. People came in and they made their own cutting boards. They were using the card scraper. They were sawing, drilling, setting a rivet for a leather strap. So you can really come here and because it's hand tools, you can do something and be done in that 2-hour, 4-hour time span. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what kind of classes that the school's offering and what you're trying to do here?
Sure. So this being Saturday mornings, we usually try to run an introduction to hand tools class. And that basically entails people coming in, learning a little bit about wood, how to buy wood, how wood is sold, how wood is dimensioned. I talk a little bit about using local woods for the benefit of your projects instead of shipping wood in and humidity and wood movement and things like that. And then we get into the basics. We do some hand sawing. They learn about the different saws. They'll cut up their piece, they'll rip a strip off of it, and then they'll six-side those boards square with hand planes. And those 2 skills alone, and I tell students this all the time, sawing and hand planing is 90%. If you're a hand tool woodworker, that's pretty much what you do most of the time anyway. So those are like the gateway skills that we want to teach students. But that's our introduction class. And this afternoon's cutting board class you were just witnessed is more of a, what do you want to call it? We call it our maker series. So it's people who don't really want to come in and learn how to six-side a board with a hand plane, but they want to make something. They're like, they just like making stuff, right? So not being too cliche there, but yeah, so that's more of that kind of intro class for them. But the goal here, not the goal, but I mean, we offer some longer term, like we just did a box making course, a 5-day box making course. Last month we did a 5-day hand plane making course where the students built 2 Kranov style planes, for lack of a better word. What else have we been doing? Like more skill technique classes, sharpening classes, everyone, like dovetail classes, everyone that's like, oh yeah, I want to take a dovetail class. Yeah, everyone wants to cut a dovetail. In the future, we're going to do some more longer term courses in the fall. We've developed a curriculum. So we're still kind of early on in that, but that's the goal, to have 3 10-week programs so people can spend. I get a lot of international feedback and people saying, I'd love to come to Toronto, but I'm not going to come for a weekend. Can I come for an extended period of time?
Right.
Beyond just the standard courses and classes that a lot of woodworking schools offer, we also have our makerspace. We have these benches available for hours a day, just kind of sitting there. Being in the city, a lot of people live in an apartment, a small square footage home. They don't have room for their own shop. So part of what we want to offer here is people to be able to come in, rent the benches, bring their own tools, rent tools, just give them a space to work on whatever it is they want to work on. Whether it's leather work, woodworking, sewing, knitting.
Right.
Horseback riding, basket weaving.
Sure. Horseback riding?
Now,
That's another big factor, is just that getting people into the space where they can come and do what they want to do.
right. Now, you have an amazing collection of hand tools here, Tom, but you weren't always a hand tool woodworker. So you want to talk to us a little bit about your progression through?
Yeah, sure. So when I was building, before I got into hand tools, I was building wooden boats out in Cape Breton. And so the process of building a wooden boat, even though it's wood, but the hull, there's tons of fiberglass, there's lots of epoxy wrapped around wood. And so a boat would take me, well, probably around 6 weeks to build the hull of a boat. So when I would get to the end of the process, I'd be so sick of my respirator and my ear protection and my goggles. I couldn't wait. At the time, I especially had all my Lee Nielsen bronze tools, put away the power tools, put away the sanders and the vacuums, and bust out my favorite Lee Nielsen block plane and start, doing the fitting out of the boat. So when in 2006, when the boat, like the whole economy everything kind of went into the toilet there for a bit, I hung my shingle out and said, hey, custom furniture. Because I had a boat shop. I hadn't sold a boat in 8 months. So I was like, I have a shop full of still power tools then, and my hand tools. And then when I started building custom furniture for people, I thought, I don't need to get out all the power tools. I can do this a little bit more by hand, and started writing about, and that's when I started blogging about building furniture with just hand tools, which Megan Fitzpatrick read my blog and emailed me and said, I like what you're doing. Actually, that was a year later, but along that timeline. So that's what got me into mostly hand tools, just having that passion. And then when I came back to Toronto, not knowing what kind of space I was going to have, I was like, there's a population here, why can't I build furniture by hand? And the rest, as they say, is history. That's almost 10 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Tom, when did you start doing the YouTube videos? I think a lot of people kind of know about your work through just that you've really created your own style of woodworking video in the videos you've done. It's that the beautiful music and there's no talking, and it's really all about the tools and the process.
Yeah, thanks. So that started actually while I was writing the Unplugged Woodshop book, my second book, and basically I knew in my mind that I had to somehow bring video content in. At the time, talking to Totten Press, my publishing deal was to write the book, but I also had a deal to shoot the book. So knowing that, I knew somehow, okay, I got to shoot this. Why am I doing all this work and not capturing it? So I just started setting up a video camera like we have here and just working through my day and just letting it run and run and run and run and run. And it wasn't until the book was done that I had like a year's worth of building those projects specifically for the book. Not all of them, but most of them, as you see in the YouTube videos. And then it was just a matter of editing them. And I thought about doing a voiceover at that point and turning them into instruction videos, but then I thought, you know what, that's not my thing. And being a musician, I actually like timing, and I like, putting music into some kind of rhythmic pattern, and it was really intuitive for me to take those pictures and all that editing and start putting it to my own music, because I had a bunch of it sitting on a shelf somewhere. So that part was easy, and yeah, so that's kind of what drove the videos, and then they just kind of developed their own. It was a pretty organic process. It wasn't really that much thinking going on. It just kind of was the best way for me to do it and present it, I thought.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to the whole like idea that if you create something good or some good content, that people will find it and they'll get behind it and really just love it. And I think you have quite a really passionate following behind you, just because it's so different than what a lot of people are doing, and it's its own art in a sense.
Thanks. Yeah, that's how I feel too. You know, not the art part, but just having it kind of develops its own traction, right? So it's a nice feeling too. And the only thing now is I feel almost like when I do like this new YouTube video that I just did to show people the school and just posted last week, I feel almost compelled to produce that style video again and not talk. And so now I just have to, and that will happen as soon as I start writing another book and start just doing a lot of stuff, because you know the talky part of the videos is more for my membership site and where I'm talking to the camera. But I would like to keep the YouTube videos closer to that old style, but everything changes, I suppose. So we'll see how that goes.
So why don't you tell us a little about the subscription part? So what's that about?
Yeah, the subscription part. So I have a lot of people who would email me and say, you know, I'd love to come to Toronto, but I live in Brazil or I live in whatever, South Africa. Can you offer some kind of online? Because as online video content and membership sites gain speed, a lot of other woodworkers were doing it. I wasn't, and didn't really have that much of a desire to be honest. But just had enough people kind of asking about it that I said, how hard, what can I do? How hard can this be to set up? So we did, and it's been going really well.
So what kind of content can someone get on there? Is there classes? Is it projects? What's the...
I guess kind of like the YouTube stuff, what I do is not the norm apparently. I haven't seen that many of those ones, but some people will join and go, there's no classes here, there's no instruction here. But then other people say, wow, I'm getting to hang out with you in your shop and I'm learning so much from it. So it's kind of, I don't know if I'm even the one that should be describing this. Maybe Justin can describe it.
I am currently still part of a bunch of the woodworking membership sites. And yeah, Tom's is absolutely one of a kind. I joined it before all of this. So I was kind of watching his along with all the others. Yours is a lot more just every day. Now that I see how you film it, you'll put the camera down, hit record, and just go, and just start working on whatever project it is you're working on. So it's one take usually. There's very little editing. It's a lot more just free flowing, just a day in the life of that kind of approach to it.
And by default, I mean I do try to like give people, like if I am making a drawer for whatever project, or I can't even think of what I've done on it now, but
group build.
Yeah, the group build, the H&D cord and cabinet over there, like stuff like that, you know, and I'll try to show them, you know, that kind of thing, but it's not specific to projects, although, okay over there?
Something's going on upstairs, I don't know.
Squirrel.
The house falling down?
I'm still here.
That's what happens when you prop up the floor above you, Matt.
But back to that just for a second, you know, I would love to have a little bit more of a format, and to be quite honest, that's more of a selfish reason, so my own schedule could be like, okay, we're shooting this. For instance, next week I'm going to Australia to teach for 2 weeks. So it's going to be really difficult, and I appreciate how great my members are that they'll go, you know, and say, okay, I get that. And I'll take my camera to Australia and I'll just, you know, do the slice of life stuff over there. But it would be nice to have a little bit more production. And that just boils down to timing and editing, really. But...
So,
something on that?
Just on the more structured format, now that we have the school set up and a lot of the nitty gritty day-to-day stuff is getting taken care of and I can handle that, we're looking at, you know, filming more structured content for that membership site. So it's a lot more kind of build along process, kind of like the other membership sites, but still.
And the more we teach here too, we've had students, actually just last week, some of the two ladies that were here for one of our classes last week, and they were both saying it'd be great if you could, like you show us something through the day, if we could go home and you could have a little video that we could view to refresh what we did and kind of go, okay. And I thought that's a great idea. And even for an intro class like this, just go and say, hey, here we are again, welcome back to the shop. This is what we did today. And just say, okay, this is what we, because a lot of times it's a lot to absorb, right? You get a 2-hour class, and if you're new to this, it's like, well, what did he say about a crosscut saw versus a rip saw, or what was that angle he was talking about? So just give a little refresher of the class. And that's nothing that I would want to sell out there, but just have those. And I'm not even sure if that should be a YouTube video or if it should be some kind of just embedded to the website where students can go and kind of see again what they did through the day kind of thing.
I think that's a really great idea, because like you're saying, if you're new to it and you're sitting in a class for a few hours, by the time you get to the end, you have no idea what the first 5 minutes were about.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it'd be nice to do that, and and then it just engage them more and have something for them so it's easy for them to come back, to know where they should go from here. That's one of the most popular question I get from students. It's like, okay, what do I do now? What's next? Where should I go from here? Loved the intro class, loved all, working with hand planes. What do I do now? So, and just making it easy for them to get into this and explore the craft. And I mean, honestly, in a perfect world, this would be like a non-for-profit school, and like we could just have the doors wide open all the time, but that doesn't happen. Someone's got to pay the rent here. So, but until that's the goal. Like, I would love that so much if we could have that kind of environment where we just have guests coming in, tool meets happening, real community, right? So that's, I mean, it's slow. We're 2-3 months old almost, so.
It's brand new.
It's brand new, yeah. Baby steps, but we're getting there.
Yeah. So if someone's read the book, or at least the newest book, is there stuff here that they can actually come here and do that's from the book, or?
The hand plane, yeah, our hand plane class, the Razzie Jack, which is a chapter in the book. Yeah.
I'm gonna grab it.
Sure. Grab the Kerfing Plane one in there too.
Which one?
That one actually is from the book. So those two tools right there. So 2 weeks ago we did a plane making class so people could build the Razzie Jack plane. And the Kerfing Plane and frame saw will both be courses we're doing eventually. Do I have them on the calendar yet? They'll be in the fall for our curriculum during the fall, but right now I'm doing this thing, Solidpalooza, in July with Mark Carroll at Bad Axe, where people will come and build a Kerfing Plane and a frame saw and a Bad Axe saw. So I didn't want to, shoot Mark in the foot by putting those classes here before July. But in the fall, I think we'll probably offer some more tool-based classes.
Now, most people probably know what a jack plane is, but I don't know, do most people know what a Kerfing Plane is? So why don't you tell us what it is and why it's important? And
sure. The Kerfing Plane, yeah. So when we're resawing wood, and you have your bandsaw at home.
Right.
So when you resaw wood, the only problem you probably ever experience is saw drift. So the same goes true if you're resawing this with a frame saw, which is just a manual bandsaw, for lack of a better word. So developing this tool basically is like training wheels for a saw to follow when we specifically resaw wood. But that's not all I can do, but that's what the purpose was when it kind of came to me to say, okay, how can I make my resawing a little more dependable, a little more foolproof, to be able to cut a curve. So essentially you set the tool so you create a curve around the perimeter of a board up to the depth of the curve here, which is about a 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch. And once you have a curve around your board, you can drop your frame saw into that curve, and it makes it much easier. The frame saw will track as you saw. So that's essentially what it is. If you think of it a little further though, you can easily set this up. For instance, if I was going to put a rabbit on the side of this board, I would grab my rabbit plane and I'd be left with a pile of shavings. I can make 2 cuts with this tool and be left with a nice little rectangle offcut. So,
got it.
Yeah, repeatable cuts too. If you were putting a breadboard on the end of a table, something like that, you could set the fence to your breadboard depth for cross grain instead of putting a batten in a back saw, which you may or may not do with a hand tool, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, something like that. So the next generation, which I'm already working on a little bit, we'll have a way to adjust the depth of the saw plate as well, much like a plow plane, like an old Madison style plow plane. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, there's a great collection of planes here, by the way, too. So I got some good footage of that, Matt. You can cut to right now.
Oh, look at those planes.
Yeah.
Oh. So Tom, now that you're doing more of the instructing, I guess, in the facility there, how much of your time is actually spent, I guess, teaching actual classes? Is that just on the weekends? Or, you know, what's your day-to-day life kind of like now that you have the actual space?
It's mostly teaching, yeah. 9 to 5, pretty much Monday to Saturday is most of the time, you know, is teaching. So, and when I'm not here, I still do teach internationally. So there is still usually a week a month that I'm teaching at other people's schools. And I really hope that at some point, again in the future, that the kind of transient woodworkers I meet on my travels in other schools will have somewhere now to come, because I've asked many of them actually and say, hey, you want to come to Toronto to teach? And they'll be like, yeah, I'd love to. They wanted another spot too. It's like a musician playing another gig and there's a new venue to come to, right? So for all those traveling woodworkers out there who want to teach in another spot, well, there's around 6 million people in the GTA, so you know, it's a nice space to it's a nice opportunity for other people to teach at as well.
What does GTA mean?
Oh, sorry. That's the Greater Toronto Area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's part of the planet you're on. Yeah. But Matt, you know all about that, being from here, right?
I mean, it's been a few years, but yeah, I know the area to some extent.
Now, we were texting earlier, and you said you're coming up this way, right?
I am. I'll be there at the end of May, the last week of May there, through the beginning of June.
Well, you have an open invitation to come over, and we'll, you know,
Absolutely, yeah.
show you around.
Have some walnut syrup.
Yeah, yeah. I was treating Matthew to some walnut syrup. It's like maple syrup, but it's walnut syrup. It's black walnut, tapped from a black walnut tree here in Ontario.
That sounds awesome.
So I'll hook you up.
Yeah. So I think watching today, you know, the two different classes you had. What's nice about the hand tools is that, at least to me, they're able to just jump into it. You don't have to sit there. You're not too worried about the saw blade moving at 5,000 RPMs, and you're worried about cutting your. You may still think about cutting your finger off, but you're not worried about this crazy.
It'd be tough.
Okay.
That
would take some effort.
Yeah, you'd have to really go at it to cut it fully off with a handsaw. But you're right, and that's something too. Our insurance, when we were getting insurance here, was like, there's no power tools here, right? So that was, that made life easier for us.
Right, and there's no power tools at all, period. So your drills are all
there's no power. We don't even have a cordless drill here. In fact, even when we built the benches, a lot of people assume that when we were building the school, before it was even open to the public, that we brought in like a CNC machine or something, or a table saw, but no, it was just Justin and I with a couple of panel saws and a couple of jointing planes, and everything in here. It's just even driving a screw. It's a screwdriver. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, that's a good thing because there's no plugs in here either.
Yeah, I count the plugs around this room. Like, had we been a power tool shop, we would have been spending some money on rewiring the place because there's no power in here.
Yeah, but there's something definitely romantic about just using hand tools versus.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, right. No, but seriously, instead of you sitting there with the headphones, everything.
I'm not kidding. Yeah, absolutely, there is. Yeah, and it is pretty accessible. It's pretty accessible for beginners, right? Who don't have that fear of, we get a lot of students who might not have taken a woodworking class if it was kicking on the table saw and getting that vibration going when it first ramps up.
And you're like.
Yeah, so I mean, all that. So it makes it very accessible to people who want to get into this kind of work and make something, who can go, oh yeah, I can do this. And then handling, it's the same thing every week. It's like, wow, this is therapeutic. Wow, and you can just see them just
mellow out.
Mellowing out, and their stress is going and then they're looking at a board and it's flat and it's smooth and they're holding it up to the light, and it's just like, And then there's no sanding at the end of it. It's like, wow, I put oil on this hand plane surface. Like, yeah, it's ready for finish. So people really can relate to that really easy. There's that instant gratification.
So speaking about the light and everything, there's amazing light here, Matt, by the way, when you come. It's tons of great light, but what's going on in the space? What do we got going on here? We've got, what, 8 benches?
There's 8 benches that we built, yeah. There's 6 Nicholson style benches for all the bench heads out there. I don't even know, the Rubo and the Nicholson guys who are always like, those guys, you know those guys. And gals, but we don't really. Here's my thoughts of it, and I'm actually going to post a video soon about this, and it's like, let your lumber dictate the bench you build. If you have big heavy slabs, then build a Rubo style bench. If you only have like 2-inch stock, then build a Nicholson style bench, because essentially a Nicholson style bench is made because you don't have big heavy slabs to build a big heavy Rubo style bench. So it's more like a torsion box. So yeah, we built because of that. So we had all this Halliburton pine, which is local pine we got. And it's 8-quarter slabs. So you can see, yeah, we did 6 Nicholson style benches, 2 Rubos, 3 Rubos actually now.
Technically.
A couple of high benches for sharpening. There's a couple more we have to throw together. A polishing bench over there where I do my French polishing on. My bench is here, Justin's bench is here. There's a treadle machine. I've got a treadle lathe in my basement that has to come over. So it's a good mix for people who want to maybe try out. We still have a lot of vices to install as well, so we're going to install those so people can come in and try a quick release vise, try a more traditional vise, try a shoulder, you know what I mean? So just have a nice blend for people who may not know what they want or what works best for them, so they can come here and try different variations.
So kind of playing off of Matthew's mention of the romance, the space that you're in right now, is there any cool history or anything to the building at all?
There is a little bit, yeah, actually.
Certainly the area.
Yeah, well, right outside here, if Matt gets a shot, there's a stack here that says Woods on it. And Woods, during World War II, the tracks run right behind the building here. The railway from, basically if you're leaving Toronto heading towards Montreal, the tracks are right here. And this entire area is where they made all the canvas and tents for the war effort. So all canvas tents in Europe during World War II were made in this field right here and packed onto trains right here. And this whole area is just full of old industry. So all these old industrial buildings around this area of Toronto is basically what built Toronto downtown, right? So yeah, there is a bit of history.
So if people were to come up and take a class from you, is there places for them to stay, or?
Yeah, they can stay with Justin.
Thanks. That's great. Okay.
You got an Airbnb at your house?
Apparently, yeah.
Actually, there's no. The few people who have traveled here, apparently Airbnb. If you Airbnb this neighborhood, there's literally hundreds of hits. But if you don't want to stay at Airbnb, yeah, there's lots. I mean, the streetcar runs at the north side of the building. There's the Queen cars there, so Toronto's pretty accessible. So there's no hotel like. Actually, there is a hotel just like a few minutes from here, so yeah.
That's paid by the hour.
Don't stay there.
Yeah, it's pretty accessible. And being here just through a normal day, like we usually start at 9 for long-term classes. At lunch, there's lots of options for food around here. Chinatown's right there, and we're in Leslieville, so there's tons of food around the neighborhood. So, and we run till 5, and yeah, there's always something going on around here. So hey Matt, what are you working on in your shop there?
I am working on trim for my my wood flooring room. I did a tree to floor video or a project or whatever, so I'm doing the trim for that room as well now. Finally, that was like last summer I did that.
Yeah, your wife's gonna be happy about that one.
She will be quite happy.
So I'll ask you a question because I can see your hand tools behind you. So if your fire alarm goes off, and you can grab one of them, what is your tool? What is your tool you're gonna grab first as you run out the door? Besides the fire extinguisher, all the smart asses always say, grab the fire extinguisher. But is there a tool that you'd reach for first?
Probably the one tool I use the most, which is the only plane that's out of my cabinet on my bench right now, which is my number 4.
There you go. That's your go-to?
That's my goal. I use this thing for every project all the time for all kinds of stuff. So
it looks like an older one too, is it? It looks like a nice one. The tote looks nice shape.
Yeah, it's an old Wards Master. That's a Stanley rebrand or whatever, but it's really well made. And I got it off a guy off of eBay who restores them. He did a fantastic job on the restore.
Nice. There you go. Good answer.
I approve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works great. I love it.
I think if I was here, I would take that whole Gordon cabinet and the Krenov because I think it fits in the right.
Yeah, it almost fits, doesn't it? Yeah, I got to build its own little box for that one.
Yeah.
But the Krenov is my go-to. And there's I have a few, like my granduncle saws over there that I grab.
So you'd have a whole arm full.
Yeah.
I guess. Everything's replaceable except that Krenov, of course, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to come around and make any more. So.
No.
Probably not.
No,
Probably
That's
not,
not going to
no.
happen. But everything else, like as much as I love my bad axe tools, well, Mark's always making saws. Even the Marku over there, right? Like, you know, so all that stuff is.
No offense, Mark.
And even my own stuff, like I can remake that stuff. But the Krenov, obviously, that's one of a kind, right?
Now you were a power tool guy to start with, Matt. How did you move into more hand tool stuff?
I don't even know. It just started, I think it was the romance really got me. Again, with the romance. It's just, as I got more into woodworking, I could see that as I progressed, I could see the value that hand tools can bring to my work because they're a really good complement. I can really fine-tune things and make things fit perfectly a lot easier with the hand plane than I could like at the table saw. And with a table saw, it's a lot harder to go too far when you're cutting something. With a hand plane, you're only taking off a set amount of width or a set shaving, and you can really dial it in a lot easier with the hand planes.
Dan Barrett always says power tools just make it that much faster to screw things up.
This is true.
Tough to argue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I cut this knuckle off with a router back in 1989, 1990. That wasn't fun.
No, I wouldn't think so.
That doesn't sound like
No.
Does it work the same?
You know what? I was really lucky. It happened here in Toronto, and just by coincidence, they have for the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. There's a doctor here who specializes in cut fingers for any damage on the symphony people. So my doctor forwarded me on to this guy, and yeah, he totally. And because I was a guitar player too, or still a guitar player, but I mean, I was playing more then, and I was really concerned about that. So yeah, so no, it literally grew back. You couldn't. My whole knuckle was gone. It completely grew back.
Wow,
it's incredible. So anyway, that's my power tool.
So that's great.
Moving on. The one story he tells is when he almost cut his finger off.
Well, I just don't want to think about it. Probably it's more like it. How can people find you guys? Tom, you first.
www.theunpluggedwoodshop.com.
Justin?
Follow us there. We both have our social media accounts,
Okay.
at Tom Fidgen and at jsmakes.ca.
Right, and everything's on there, YouTube, the whole 9 yards.
It's,
You'll find
YouTube for
us.
me is coming, but obviously for you it is, yeah.
And Matt, where can they find you?
You can find me and everything that I do over at mattcremona.com.
You can find everything I do over at mmwoodstudio.com. And as always, please subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. See ya.
Goodbye.
Ciao.
All right.